Now, in the latest in the tensions in the Korean Peninsula, North Korea's test-fired 4 strategic cruise missiles. On the other hand, the United States and South Korean officials, they've held simulated tabletop drills. North Korea test-fired 4 missiles towards the sea off the east coast of the Korean Peninsula. According to state media, the 4 missiles flew for nearly 3 hours in oval and H-shaped orbits above the sea and hit a preset target after traveling for 2,000 kilometers. Pyongyang said that the drill demonstrates the conflict readiness of its nuclear combat force. The launch came as United States and South Korea took part in tabletop exercises that focused on the nuclear threat from Pyongyang. A joint statement mentioned that the United States and South Korean delegations focused their discussion on maintaining peace and stability in the Korean Peninsula and considered potential options for responding to North Korea's nuclear weapons use. This was the 8th US-South Korean Deterrence Strategy Committee tabletop exercise. The delegations, which were made up of military and defense officials as well as personnel from South Korea's Foreign Ministry and US State Department, held the exercise on the same day as separate drills by Washington, Seoul and Tokyo in the Sea of Japan. These drills were held with an emphasis on sharing ballistic missile target information and mastering detection, tracking and interception procedures. United States and South Korean officials have warned that the North could be preparing for its first test of a nuclear device since 2017. After the simulated exercise at the Pentagon, officials from the United States and South Korea visited a naval submarine base in Georgia. During this visit, a senior U.S. Navy officer explained the mission of Ohio-class nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines. The United States has sought to reassure South Korea over America's so-called extended deterrence commitments after North Korea declared itself an irreversible nuclear power last year. Now, for more on this, we're being joined by our correspondent Chris Gilbert from Tokyo. Thank you so much for joining us, Chris. Tensions continue in the Korean Peninsula. North Korea's test-fired 4 missiles to assert its combat readiness and nuclear combat force. What can you tell us of the latest test fires towards the sea?
Well, what we know, first of all, school is out here in Tokyo, so there's some very rowdy children around me. But what we do know is everything we've learned from the DPRK. Usually we get this information about these missile launches from South Korea or from Japan, but on this time everything has come from North Korea, so make of that what you will. But we do know that 4 long-range missiles were launched yesterday on Thursday into the East Sea, and they did travel about 2,000 kilometers, potentially upwards, as well as figure-eight ballistics as well. When North Korea likes to launch these super long-range missiles, it likes to launch them upwards, so it doesn't further provoke any neighboring countries, such as Japan, by constantly flying missiles overhead. What we also know is it did successfully hit targets that were preset, and North Korea is saying that it is demonstrating a counter-attack ability. And as you mentioned, this did come at the same time as tabletop exercises between South Korea and the United States on Thursday. That is to simulate their responses, their maneuvers in a nuclear incident. So once again, responding by North Korea to something that the United States and South Korea are doing to deter the country.
Right, absolutely. The United States and South Korea, as you mentioned as well, held tabletop exercises at the Pentagon. Now, as per reports, the delegations focused their discussions on maintaining peace and stability. So how do you see the situation unfolding going forward?
Well, it's important to note the context, which is that the South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol is far more likely to try and fight fire with North Korea than his predecessor Moon Jae-in. He is very front-footed and very assertive, and so North Korea has persistently said in this context that it is trying to defend itself. However, every missile it launches is in defiance of the international community. Every missile it launches is in breach of UN Security Council resolutions sanctions, despite the very verbose and sometimes hyperbolic language coming from the DPRK, from the Kim family and from state media that it is for counter-attack exercises, and despite experts saying that, North Korea would be mad to do a preemptive strike on any neighboring country because that would be the end of North Korea, these ongoing exercises may from here unfold to further provoke military responses from the United States and South Korea in terms of war exercises, tabletop drills, and further bring together countries such as India and Japan in defense pacts, and further mesh those interlocking defense pacts in the region.
Right. Of course, now North Korea declared itself an irreversible nuclear power last year. What do you think is the aim of these multiple test launches that we've been seeing for quite some time now? Do you see this as an escalation of tensions? Also, how do you assess the role of the United States here?
Well, we may see yet again, as you mentioned, another escalation of tensions that we saw towards the end of last year. In terms of what the United States can do next, well, the UN Security Council is an avenue that is somewhat closed to it ever since China and Russia began using their veto power to block further sanctions on North Korea. Dialogue as well does seem to be limited at the moment between the two sides. It all depends really on how much or to what extent the US has accepted that North Korea is now a nuclear-armed country, whether it pursues an avenue of denuclearization and disarmament or pursues a road of deterrence and constrainment. But what we do know is the language of action that is happening, of tit-for-tat, mutually provocative missile tests and war drills from North Korea and from joint states, joint defense partners such as South Korea and the United States. It does seem to be the beginning of yet another one of those cycles that we really saw escalate last year, and we may see escalating into the spring from here.
Right, of course. Chris, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast with all your insights on this. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.